She founded an architectural concrete company.
He founded a $100 million clothing company.
She took the world by storm as a social media star.
He took the world by storm as a famous serial entrepreneur.
Together we started a business.
And had babies.
Now we're figuring out the best ways to do both.
Join us as we learn from other entrepreneurs going through the same life struggles.
As they share their life hacks about success, love, kids,
and everything in between.
Welcome to this episode of the Pretty and Punk Podcast. My name is Dan Caldwell, and I'm here with my wife, Ildiko Ferenzi. Thank you for tuning in.
Was that not what was
Goodness
that?
gracious, you just yelled in my ear.
That? Okay,
let's
start again. Okay.
No, we're good. Here we go. So, today's episode, today's episode, how we made our first million. Now, we went back and forth about this title because we didn't want this episode to be self-serving. We wanted it to be about you guys. We wanted you guys
to encourage and give hope.
To learn, to get something from hearing what we've gone through so that maybe you can find yourself in that story a little bit and use it as hope and energy and power to move forward. Because I know that when I was first starting my business, all I wanted to do was take in people's stories on how they were able to make it. Because I knew it. I knew if I could hear that it was possible, that guys like Damon Johns, who founded FUBU, that was something that inspired me. That story, his story inspired me. And I remember reading his story in like a Forbes magazine or something and just taking pieces of it like, man, this guy came from nothing too. And this guy, he started a clothing company with no money and he just found a way to make it work. And I just got something from that and it helped push me. And I'm sure there's things that help push you too, right?
Yeah, those inspirational stories, those stories of struggle and win. For me, especially what triggered me to try to do my hardest and commit to do my hardest was having a mother that was an immigrant that risked all to give her children a chance at success in a place that has so much opportunity. And that was her dream as a young girl. She knew that's what she wanted to do. So that was a huge, weight on our shoulders, my brother and I.
I mean, you had something to live up to. I mean, she was out there doing it and creating a company from nothing.
Right. Yeah. She came with nothing and she did whatever she needed to do, clean houses. It was step-by-step struggle and win and then loss with the divorce and then win again and then loss with the death of my brother, who actually went out to get a job because we had a family business, but he felt, because he wanted to be an attorney, he felt that the salary that he was getting was taking away from the food on our plate. So he decided he was going to go get a job so that he could be successful and pay back my mother for all the sacrifice that she did and to really support me on my journey, on my dreams. 17, he was paying for my modeling school, just outstanding human being. And he went to go get this construction job. And my mom, it's almost like she felt it. She didn't want him to do it, but he just was brought up that way where he took over the father figure for us and the protector of the family. And he died.
Unfortunately, he lost his life in a
freak accident at that job. So then after that, the responsibility fell on my shoulders. And I just really needed to make it just for my brother and for my mother.
So let's fast forward a little bit. Let's start with, just quickly, how did you found your concrete company? Where did that inspiration come from?
It's a funny story. Well, after, I mean, you guys know a little bit about my past and how my mother and my family, we had the family businesses. At 13, I took all the money that I made and I invested in my own business, a party shop. At around, I don't know, a few years later, I realized, listen, I loved the party shop. I wanted to do it because I didn't really have a childhood. And I didn't miss it, but I did miss rubbing shoulders with people my own age. So that's why I opened the party shop, because I thought it would be fun. I really ended up missing the people that I was rubbing shoulders with in the jewelry store. They were all successful and had really great stories of struggle and win. And I wanted to be around that. So I had the talk with my mom. We decided that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to take over the jewelry store if it ever came down to it. I was going to take over the business. That's where I saw my future. And then she got robbed at gunpoint and things were never the same. And this is the thing, people, like, pivot happens. It happens. Like, I was so confident in my decision that's what I was going to be. I was going to be a jeweler, a super successful jeweler. I had all the marketing planned out in my head at such a young age. I watched my mom do what worked for her. I knew what worked for me in the party shop. And then we got robbed and we couldn't run it. We had, post-traumatic stress syndrome. Like, whenever a man would come into the jewelry store, had sunglasses on, it was game over. And we one day looked at each other and we said, you know what? We can't do this anymore. It's not healthy for us. So we closed the doors. And my mom had been tinkering in real estate her whole life when she started making money. And we decided to take our money out of the businesses and invest. So I invested with her. I bought a place up north. And 16, I bought my first property. And I was also modeling and acting, and that gave me money to save. And my goal was to buy more property. During that time, I was really liking the real estate world, let's say. And one night I was watching a show. The Sopranos was pretty big during that time, or maybe I was inspired by Sopranos. I can't really remember, but I just remember that the big lesson for me, the takeaway was the things that people don't want to do, there's money in that. I was watching a show about how the concrete masons were dying out. And my partner at the time, we were watching this and we got really excited because I was like, this looks really cool. I remember when we used to flip the houses with my mom. Well, it wasn't professional. We were bootstrapped. We did the paint, ripped out the carpet, but we could never do anything about the ugly, cracked up concrete out there. Like, we could plant some flowers, but we just didn't have enough money for the concrete. And when I was watching this, it was so cool. They were doing stamped concrete, which is pretty outdated now, but I just thought it was the coolest thing. And my partner and I were like, this is it. This is the sign. We were praying for something to do and to be successful in, and that thing that nobody wanted to do. Like, who wants to play in the dirt all day? And that's literally what it was. We started with small. We just learned everything we could about it. We started with small residential jobs. I was trying to learn how to stamp the concrete myself. My partner is like, he had a gift for it. Like, I think he was like a mason back in the day reborn. So he had quite the touch for it. And then really it was the relationships that we brought that opened the door to executive homes came next. And we did a lot of celebrity homes and athlete homes and just gorgeous residential. And then that opened the door to commercial and then civil. And I feel that's when we really blew up. And that's when we made $1 million. And then I took my money and I invested in my first commercial property with my mom. So 2 penthouses up top and offices at the bottom. And that was the story. It was incredible. And it surprises so many people when I say that I was co-founder of this architectural concrete company. I don't think that it should surprise people, especially with a woman so strong raising me And I wasn't afraid to be a woman in a man's world. And I'm really proud of myself for doing that. And I'm also proud for realizing when that ride was over, when my passion was no longer in it. That takes courage. That takes courage to identify that, you know what, my heart's not here anymore. Maybe it's time to pivot. You can relate to that story too, right?
Yeah, time to pivot again. I mean, and it's always, even with COVID going on and what's going on, what happened in the world that really nobody had ever seen before, nothing like this.
No,
how many people had to pivot? We were just talking this morning about how people are going to start creating restaurants that probably don't even have a place to sit down, because now with Grubhub and Uber Eats and all these other online ordering food apps, I mean, they've literally created a whole new business structure.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you could start a restaurant without having a place to serve people. It doesn't even have to look nice. It could be anywhere. And you could just be on all these platforms and actually serve food. I mean, that's crazy that you could do that. I mean, so there's so much opportunity out there. And the truth is that there wasn't this much opportunity when we started our businesses. I started that first company even though I had started small companies, little things when that went beforehand, because I was kind of a serial entrepreneur, and I was actually a police officer at the time.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And every police officer has some business in the back of their head that they're going to start one day.
Yeah, let's dig into your story, because you started out as a police officer. That was your dream, and you really believed that's what you were going to do. And then you faced what?
I mean, just quickly, how did I make that transition? Is in 1993, the first UFC came up, and we were police officers, and we wanted to train in mixed martial arts because we saw this guy, Hoist Gracie, and we saw how many shirts he was selling. Just like you're always keeping your eyes. So just how I picture this is you're always keeping your eyes open for opportunity, because you never know where it's going to show up. We just saw how many shirts these guys were selling. And we thought, you know what, we could do that. And we could actually do it not necessarily better, but different, and in a way that we could have a bigger audience, because we could sell something that lets everyone know that they like mixed martial arts, or at that time it was called No Holds Barred. So we thought we'd create a t-shirt, and we thought Charles actually came up with the name Tap Out because it was his license plate. And he said, and we would sit there and discuss it for hours on end, because we actually had two names. Warrior Caliber was the other one. And we liked both of them. We were going to make shirts under both names, but then just Tap Out just seemed to keep rising to the top. A lot of people hated the name and then a lot of people liked it.
I don't think they got it though.
Well, because they thought it meant you tapped out, like you lost.
I think that's mindset. Isn't that interesting? Like, again, if you get it, you're going to make the other person tap out. But maybe if you
glass half full.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's cool.
Yeah, so we went with this name Tap Out, and we knew that it would describe exactly what it was about. So you knew if you saw that word, this is the only sport that has this word, that uses this word, jiu-jitsu and mixed martial arts. So we just kept making shirts, and we were just selling them to our friends, and we were going to small events, and we would sell shirts on a table and just sell our shirts and our hats and whatever else we had. And we just kept growing that over and over again each year. And we were like one of the first online businesses, I would say. We went online in 1998, and there wasn't a lot of online businesses at that time when we were started to take credit card orders. Back when you would take a credit card order and you would receive it by email. Somebody's credit card information would come over by email, which is unheard of today because it's not encrypted, or people could
do a lot of bad
information.
Things.
Right. So we would get that, we would print it out, and then those old credit card machines that you'd actually type in the numbers, we would have to put the credit card information into that and then make the order go through. And then, so that's how we would do it. And we'd staple the little receipt to the printout and then to their receipt that we would print out also. And so that's how we would start to do our orders. And it just kept blowing up every single year because we had an opportunity to put clothing on fighters in the UFC. And that was literally just because we knew these guys, some of them that were fighting in the UFC, and we knew their managers because we were training with some of these guys. And so every time that they would wear it, it would just explode our website a little bit more. These different search engines started to pop up. It wasn't Google at the time. It was like Yahoo or AOL search. And they started to have a way to find our website. And then they would go to our website and they would purchase product. I remember the first time we sold product, we actually had a martial arts place carrying the product so that they could answer the phone call, and then they would send it out for us, our first form of like drop shipping. if you will. But it was just growing over and over again. And the truth is, I don't even remember when we made $1 million because we didn't have anything. And all of our money was tied up in inventory.
Yeah.
So we actually had $1 million of inventory, or $1 million. We were making more than $1 million a year online. But I don't remember that moment.
But then you have to reinvest that money.
Well, yeah, because that money goes right back into buying more product.
People need to understand that, where you have to reinvest into your business.
Yeah, it's so hard because at one point we were doing a few $1 million a year, and I didn't have 2 pennies to rub together. I was giving Charles and myself like maybe $2,000 a month to pay some bills, or that was even when we were making a lot. We were at first only paying our bills. But at some point, we started paying each other $2,000 a month, and that would barely cover a few of our bills. And so it really didn't mean anything. But we didn't, if you look back at our paperwork, we knew that we were making over $1 million a year, or a few $1 million a year. But it was all because of our growth, because we're growing 300% a year. All that money is going back into inventory. That it had to, because we knew we were going to double that or triple that year. So we had to put more money into inventory, so we had more products, so we could supply more to our customers, and we had to have deeper inventory. But eventually that caught up when somebody came to us in 2006, I believe, and wanted to invest in the company. So we took on some private equity money. And I can remember when we were about to sign this deal, me and Charles were sitting in this office, and we're looking at each other, and we're sitting in there by ourselves. And they're bringing in this paperwork that we have to sign. And as soon as we sign it, they're going to wire over some money to us, $1 million each. And I remember sitting there just talking with him, and we're just like talking about what we had gone through to get here, and just kind of celebrating the moment for a second. And then next day we woke up in the morning and we had $1 million. I think I had $1,036,000 in my bank account, because I had $36 in my bank account before I got that million. So now that I got this $1 million in my account, I have $1,036,000 in my bank account, and I still have that paper today. It's still sitting in my safe, and it's just something that one day I'm going to frame and show to my kids, because I believe you need to revel in those big wins that you have sometimes, even if it's only for a minute.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So I hope that you guys can really find yourself in these stories.
Wait, before we close off, it wasn't that I think I had a lot of people making fun of my journey, and I think you can relate to that. I think that we should touch on that a little bit, because sometimes when you have big dreams, people think you're nuts. Nutso.
Yeah.
She's crazy. He's crazy. What are you doing in a concrete, it didn't make it. Sometimes your dreams are so big that it doesn't make sense to anybody else but yourself, but you have to follow your gut. Even if maybe it might not work out, but maybe it will.
Charles once said to me, and he used to say it a lot, it always resonated with me. He said, he would say that the reason they don't believe in that dream of yours is because it's not their dream. It's our dream.
Yeah.
And me and him and Scrape would sit there and talk about our dreams after a fight or something. And when everybody else was going to party and hang out, we would go sit in a room and just conversate about how we were living out our dream and how exciting that was to be in that moment. And it's your dream. It's not meant for everybody else. If it's your dream, you have to hold on to that dream and fight for it with everything inside your soul.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to say nobody's going to help you, but nobody's
going to understand it.
Nobody understands that dream like you do.
And I think that these stories, they need to get out. This was truly our purpose today, to share. I mean, we could dig deeper into it, but we don't want to take up your time. And it feels so weird talking about ourselves. Because it's like, I don't want to do this one. I really don't. How can we bring value? And then he's like, don't you remember, wouldn't you have liked someone to have given you that hope? It was just you and your partner and the world was against you guys for a minute. And Dan had this exact same situation. And sometimes you may not have that one partner or the two partners. And sometimes all you have is just hearing a voice on the other end that's going to give you the chills and the goosebumps on your arms, and that feeling in your gut where it gives you that confirmation and where God really speaks to you. Pray whatever prayer means to you, but I'm telling you, like when we prayed, we got down on our knees and we prayed, please God, show us a sign. And I think you and Charles were kind of in the same position. And then the signs start to show and you feel it in your gut.
Yeah. It's so hard for you to also see it when you're in that place, when you're in that dark place and you don't have the money to pay for your rent or your car payment, or
your wife is pregnant,
food to eat,
or your kids are hungry and you feel like you're going to lose it.
I mean, I can remember I used to take my orders when we would get a call-in order for our T-shirts. I would carry an order form in my back pocket while I was at work. I was working as a police officer still for the first few years, and I would carry an order form in my back pocket. And if somebody called on what I called the tap-out phone, I would have to answer that phone, Tap Out Clothing, and people used to make fun of me. And here's the funny thing is that I was starting to answer the phone so much that people would hear me all the time, like, Tap Out Clothing. So when I would come around, they would go, hey, Tap Out Clothing. And they would act like they were answering a phone to make fun of me. But the truth is, it was starting to happen more and more until one day I walked into work and I said, hey, I won't be coming in tomorrow. Thank you guys. Have a nice day.
Manifest it. Speak words of positive, like the words that you manifest over yourself and over your wife or your husband and your children. Those are very powerful. So choose the words that you say. Catch yourself. Like really pay attention to the words that you're saying about yourself. Even if you don't have the funds that you need or the medical that you need, just say, thank you, God, for the abundance. Thank you, or however you want to do it. But just start manifesting the words, even if they haven't happened yet. I truly believe that's how we had our first son in a Tony Robbins event. He said, ask for the most impossible thing. And I said, okay, that's the baby that I was wishing for years and years. I'm going to write a letter to my unborn child. It happened. And
you can hear him in the background right now. It was just, we could talk about this for days, guys. I'm so excited about helping people on their journey. And so is Ildiko. We wish we could talk to each one of you and help each one of you, because I know it can happen for you. It's happening for so many people out there who are just deciding that they're not going to give up, that they're going to keep moving forward, and eventually it will happen. It is guaranteed for you. If you refuse to give up, if you refuse to lay down your sword,
whatever it is,
you will make it at some point. You may have failures along the way, but you will 100% cross that finish line at some point.
Yes.
It's like running a marathon. You keep moving forward, you will eventually cross that finish line.
Yeah.
You just have to decide that you will never, ever give up.
Amen to that. Dan, I really, don't you think that we should invite our listeners to share their stories of success? Like, I feel like that's so inspirational to me. I love to hear your stories of what you're going through and how you won, and your tricks and tips of how you made it.
Why don't you send them to us on Instagram at Pretty and Punk Podcast? Send us your stories. Let us know what you guys are building right now. Yeah. Maybe you're not there yet, but what are you guys building right now? What are you guys trying to do? And maybe if we can lend a little advice at that time and we throw something your way, we will. Because we've seen a lot. We've seen a lot. And we built, I think between us, we built a lot of businesses. And we would really love to be able to help you.
And that's why we started this podcast. It's our way of giving back and sharing and inspiring people. That's where we are right now in our lives.
So thank you for listening to this episode of the Pretty and Punk Podcast. Remember, if you know anybody that this episode can help, people that are going through this type of struggle right now, that are trying to start their businesses, please share this with them, or share it on your Instagram or Twitter or whatever platform, Facebook, whatever you like to use, because we know it will help people.
And don't forget to tag us when you're doing your parent business juggle. You got the baby in your arms, you're on the laptop. Tag us so that we could share you and put the spotlight on you and your business where we can help and connect you guys. It's funny. Sometimes when you share, the universe will bring someone into your life, or it could just really inspire someone else that's going through the same journey. So let us share that for you.
And keep the reviews coming. We share all those reviews with our kids, and they have been loving the reviews coming in, and they really enjoy that because they're a part of this podcast too.
They believe it's their
their podcast. And contact us at Pretty and Punk Podcast on Instagram and on our website, prettyandpunk.com. Thank you guys for listening. And remember, life doesn't happen to you. It happens for you.
We love you.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe. We love you.